This morning we were talking about, the monks were talking about this water system in the around the monastery that we have. And it's served us quite well over the past almost 25 years. And it's interesting how it's like just coming to the monastery, and for those who are coming now, it's sort of like seeing the way it's set up. It almost feels like it's just always been like this. But when the monastery first came to be, there was just half of the land, even less than half of the land that was here now. And we were donated a piece of land that had no infrastructure on it. There wasn't any water, there wasn't anything on it. And so then this land was purchased. This side of the mountain was purchased from people who were renting it. There were some marijuana growers. We had a couple of pipes in the forest, or more than a couple. But for the most part, there was very little water. We had rights to a spring across the street. And so for years, a major undertaking was done with our water system, just trying to get water all the way up from the top of the mountain. I think it's over, possibly is it over 2,000 feet, Tante Jasara? And that's just vertical distance. Is that vertical, or is that's horizontal? That's horizontal. Yeah, vertical would have been quite a lot. And so now it's, the water system's a bit overtaxed. Our community, the water is there, but the way we got it isn't. It's not. The system's not really set up anymore for that. This kind of community, and the demands we put on it. So, looking at replacing it just this morning, thinking about it, and then hiring a professional to get involved, it seems, wow, that's just monumental. Just the amount of pipes and redoing all the water, larger pipes as well, and just getting the mind around something that big. It's almost painful to think about. How quickly do we want to get it done? Is it 5 years? Is it 10 years? Is it 20 years? What can we afford? But that's not how the water system started here. So, okay, what can we have some water that's needed in the monastery. The spring is not enough to provide for the future of the monastery. Probably was challenging enough. There was even a well that was dug in the early days. Ajahn was here, and that didn't give enough water. In fact, it would get muddy after pumping it a certain amount of time, so it would have to be shut off. And then the way that it was shut off, is some of you might have been here when Ajahn talked about that, was actually filling a generator with just enough gasoline that the motor kicked off after 6 hours or so that it wouldn't cave in or fill up with mud, or the water wouldn't get muddy. The point is that when the water system was being developed, it wasn't, okay, we got to get this done in the next couple of months. It was a very long period of time. And then when it was done, it was never done. It was consistently being managed and repaired. And then there were a lot of errors in how it was made from the beginning, even though having some professional consultation, areas of the pipe that weren't glued well because of sort of amateur gluing, breakages, leaks that are probably still going on right now. So one of those was just repaired a few days ago. So the reason I'm bringing this up is like, this is how we often think about our practice. I have to get so much done, and enlightenment is such a big task. I mean, just if I could be a stream enterer, that's so monumental, I can't even think about it. But that's not the right way to really try to take on our task, unless we're trying to motivate ourselves and really encourage ourselves in that way, knowing, well, I don't want to waste time. Well, that's very helpful. But the bigger picture is, we're just putting one breath in front of the other, just one pipe in front of the other. It's not something that we have to do in one day, or we can do in one day. It's not possible. So we can try not to be so overwhelmed by our task of what we're doing, and just knowing that we're just taking care of one moment at a time. Just trying to, just like each pipe was kind of really watched over, and then trying not to be so hasty with how each one was glued, let alone how it was first the earth needed to first be dug, and then hopefully sand added so the pipes wouldn't break during an earthquake. We're just preparing our mind in the same way. We're just conditioning ourselves. We're putting in the right steps. We're putting in the infrastructure. And sometimes that's very basic and just takes basic restraint. Do I need another piece of toast here? Rather than, how do I get into the first jhana? Did I make my sleeping area up? Did I clean it up? Did I put things away when I left the kuti? Rather than, how can I learn how to pass through walls? There's just very basic training, a very basic sense of how we're taking care of our minds, how we're taking care of our bodies, how we walk past another person. What's the right time to do something or not do something? What's the right place? Looking after our basic requisites. These are the tasks, and then they lend themselves to much higher exalted states of mind, but we can't skip everything and have it all done in one day or 1 week or 1 year. Maybe 10 years or 20 years. Just to quote Ajahn, when I was lamenting as an Anagarika about how difficult things were, he said, don't worry about it. The first 20 years are the hardest. And I thought, that's a funny joke, Ajahn. You're not serious. Yeah, I am. So, we don't need to project that, into the future, that sense of like, I can't deal with 20 years of this. We just ask ourselves if we can do this for a day. Or we bring it down to an hour, or 10 minutes, or just the next breath. And so that's really an incredibly important lesson about the practice. It's just a slow training, and it might take many lifetimes as well. And so we don't want to kind of sit on our haunches. We don't want to kind of just let things go by and take things for granted. We do want to put effort into what we're doing, but it's not a frenzied kind of effort. It's not something that's impatient and requires us to think about getting it all done as soon as possible, getting it over with, and then getting on to something else after I'm enlightened. It's just patiently dealing with each task, each breath, each moment, just like we will do with rebuilding the water system. That's enough for now.